Hello everybody, Daz here. Welcome to episode 6 of Green Lantern build, and today we finally start to work on water cooling computer itself. The first task is probably will be the most challenging, at least for me, is to find the best way to route the tube. Unless of my previous build, when we have a Thermotake P5, everything is open, you can do really whatever you want. You can go tubes this way and this way, behind motherboard, in front motherboard, and do a lot of crazy stuff as that. For micro ATX case and a build like this, with everything is cramped together in filling basically all space inside. When I did a review for the case, everything looked really cool and neat, but now when I put all components in, you can see that the spacing that you have inside of this computer becomes absolutely small. Additional complications at the bottom of the case is not really that easily removable, so in terms of any maintenance or putting any additional components, it became even more harder. For that reason, I decided not to use the bottom of the case at all. So there's a few ways how we can deal about configuration of this particular very stuffed type of the build. First of all, let's talk a little bit about this predator unit. So you can see this one side is where you have your pump located, and the other side we have your radiator located. Theoretically, in this particular BH7 case, lab BH7 case, we can do two ways of mounting this device. We can put pump on the back, or we can rotate 180 degrees and put pump on the front. And that gives you slightly different configurations, and I would like to give you some idea what you can expect doing this way or other way. So right now I put pump on towards the back of the case. This has certain advantages in my mind. First of all, we have all ports in and out on the bottom of the case that close to all my water cooling component. So if you would like to route tubing, it will be really truly a stealth type of the configuration. So tube will be kind of on towards the bottom, towards the end of the case. Front of the case becomes relatively open, so all cables, showcasing nice memory, possibly with some lighting options. This will be looks really good. The disadvantage of that particular configuration, because the radiator is relatively long and goes all the way to the front of the case, basically there is no room for any form of fans at all. So I lost basically my front fan, at least one of them for sure. I still can mount second fan, but I can't have two. If I put this device, flip it 180 degrees and put pump towards the front of the case, while the other side will be to the back, then this little spacing that we have moving to the back of the case, but we have a little bit more spacing in the front. And I didn't measure exactly, but by visually I can see that you can definitely put at least 12mm fans, and most likely you can put standard 25mm fans. Why I decide to go with pump on the back is simply because I think that makes tube routing a little bit nicer. I can deal about most of it towards the back of the case. I don't need to run tube to the front at all. If I will do it other way, then certain tubing will have to go from front of the case to the middle, to the CPU, and it will be a lot of additional extra tubing, which I don't like. It's my personal preference. I see people going crazy on internet showing especially Thermotake P5 and P3 cases, and people go totally crazy. So it's like, if I can bend it, I will bend it to the limit, even if it looks like crap. So a lot of people putting too much tubing, in my opinion. It's if you like it, it's like, I'm happy for you, but for me it's look totally ugly. I try to use a minimum amount of tubing. For that reason, I overuse fittings, because sometimes it's hard to do it stealth by bent tube. It's easier to bend it with metal fitting. But the stealth looks, that's something that I'm personally after, and that's my personal taste. So for that reason, we will pursue this way, not other way. Second major problem here, that when we traditionally build computer, you have typically at least three components, right? You have reservoir and pump combo, could be separate, but for simplicity we say reservoir pump combo. We have a radiator and we have a block, right? Three pieces. They somehow connected together. The purpose of a reservoir in that particular scenario is trying to separate air from water for initial setup, and then it just works as a buffer between the pump as an uninterrupted way to supply pump with the water. In this particular situation, we're basically losing that reservoir and pump combo because everything is built in together into one unit. So Predator is pump attached right to the radiator itself. So essentially we're running into the issue here that when we broke pre-filled system, we don't have a good way to refill it back. So the first solution that I thought maybe to put some sort of bracket on the bottom that will have two ports in it and put two quick disconnects. For that reason, and this will became like loop interrupted on these 2 points. So when computer is used a normal solution, I thought to make some sort of like a bracket, which is like a loop complete. You just plug it in into quick disconnects, and this it loops together, and we have a loop just going through. But for the moment when we need to drain it or we need to fill it up, I would disconnect this loop and insert a secondary device, which is not really device, it probably will be just a reservoir with 2 tubes coming in it from it, so one for water in and one for water out. And I just plug this additional reservoir outside, pour the liquid, do all my business, and when all bubbles out, I disconnect it and plug this my like shortcut thingy. It's possible to do, but I decide not to because in a way it's over-engineered solution, if you'll think about it. Secondary, I had to use 4 quick disconnects, and things became a little bit more expensive, so I didn't like that. My secondary solution was, I was thinking, okay, maybe we'll go old school and try like T-fittings. Why I didn't like that solution? That it could be the cheapest possible, but it could be kind of messy in terms of some liquid still gets spilled, and I also wasn't sure how well T-tube will be working in my particular case, and the whole bleeding process could be like really frustrating. So for that reason, I decide that I'm kind of going backwards in a way. It's not optimal and not something I was envisioning in the beginning, but I decided that, okay, what I will do is I introduce little reservoir that will be working for me as something that has a drain point if I need to get rid of the liquid, and also working as an air-water separator for initial fill up. And obviously it's defeat in a way the purpose of the all using this Predator unit, because you're supposed to have one loop just with block attached, but because of the need of changing liquid, I have to deal somehow with it, and adding a reservoir, it would be the best way to deal with occasional maintenance issues, because you can easily add more liquid if it evaporates or whatever reason. You have some micro crack in radiator that doesn't really leak, but liquid evaporates from it, and over the 6 months, all of a sudden you have some air in the system. So with reservoir configuration, you just pour a little bit in and end of story. When it's completely sealed loop, you just have a bunch of noise start coming through the pump because air circulating through. And it was a few ways how, okay, first of all, the case is so small that it's no way to put any normal reservoir. I had to dig through my really old parts, both home and in the office, and eventually I was able to come up and find a part that wasn't really a standalone reservoir, it was something else, but I was able to find very small tube, like this size. I use different things, like different 2 reservoirs that I steal both end caps from, and I created little reservoir out of it. So there's no product like this on the market. Something that I just assembled from parts I was able to find all over the place. So this gave me this little cute reservoir. Nice thing, Question is where to put it. So my initial inclination was to put it in front of the case, somewhere here, where it's not very intrusive. Then the tube routing became the really big problem, because I was looking, okay, so I have to run this way and back way. So it was a lot of extra tubes that I actually personally would like to avoid as I can. I already was speaking about it like 5 minutes ago. So that solution didn't really work for me. Then I decided that maybe I'll do unconventional way, and I will put reservoir actually on the back of the case. It has a serious drawback that you might want to listen before you want to copy me. You want to put a reservoir here only if you're absolutely sure that none of the PCI slots will be necessary for you in near future. I know for a fact that this computer as a 3D printer workstation, I need no additional cards in it whatsoever. I have one GPU, 100% happy with this, so anything else, I don't care. For that reason, putting a reservoir on the back above PCI slots, I lose nothing. I still have access to two of them, by the way, but nevertheless, I absolutely don't care that I'm blocking those slots. Benefit of putting a reservoir on the back of the case at the same time is the fact that I keep all my tube business very all in one cluster on the back of the case. So nothing will be run in the front of the case. It's give me as much stealth tube routing that possibly even achievable for this particular configuration. And that is a selling point for me. I want very neat and almost invisible tubing. And putting a reservoir on the back buys me this. Right now, that's all what I want to say. I will start filming, I will start cutting tube and actually putting things together. I'm not sure it will be a separate video or not, but nevertheless, I think it's totally worth to make this separate video just on the planning purposes. Maybe not as entertaining as my other videos, but definitely most crucial and hard part of any water cooling build. From this such critical decision how and where components are located and how you run tube, it will affect a lot of things moving further. And any mistake on this stage create a lot of hassle later. You saw with P5, I had to move my GPU block, and it's basically I have to waste like 3 meters of hard tubes that was bended certain way, and it was a lot of extra hours to fix it. So you always try to think as hard as you can before you start putting things together, because redoing stuff is not end of the world, but it's a lot of work. All right, okay guys, thanks again for following my channel. Thank you for watching. Hope you appreciate this video, and I will continue to work on the build.